timestamps on them, and Discord came out and said they didn't exist.
This was supposedly text messages, not Discord messages. It's my understanding from the indictment.
I actually did not read that they were text messages.
And then this message was on the 22nd of September. Welcome back to the Nissim Black Show. Always appreciating to see all of you, especially a lot of the new people. I'm getting wonderful comments from all of you, and I really want to tell every single one of you, I really appreciate it. For me, this is nothing small. It took a lot for me to do this, and it means a lot. Whenever I'm getting these messages and seeing how inspiring it is and how much people are actually benefiting from what we're doing here on the channel, it means a lot. So please share, send this to your friends. Make sure they all like it because, ladies and gentlemen, we are at war. Again, I'm sorry to keep talking about Candace Owens. She just does enough stuff that it is something that absolutely needs to be discussed. And the reason why it needs to be discussed, contrary to all this garbage going on right now. And what I mean by garbage, I'm talking about pure garbage. Are people saying that people like myself, there's a lot of other creators, content creators right now in I would say podcasters or whatever, speaking out against Candace. And the question is, why does it always have to be that somebody's getting paid? How come it can't be that the lady's saying outlandish things? She's doing outlandish things that are making herself look like a fool, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate that all the time when something comes out about her, somebody's creating and happens to be in our particular case, we keep covering this because I'm trying to get you all to understand how much you are being manipulated, how much we are being manipulated. Hopefully not us, because you're here on this channel, but there are a lot of other people, unfortunately, that are being manipulated and they're following her, and the numbers only get increasing. And what we're starting to see is that the gates of hell are opening up wider and wider and wider as time goes, and there are many people unfortunately following suit, and they're going through. So I think that it's of the utmost importance for us all to be speaking about it, sharing these videos, sharing it with whatever. Not only here, if you're getting great information somewhere else, show me, I'll go there also. And the reason why I say that is because the rhetoric that she is spewing is absolutely dangerous. There's no other words. It is absolutely dangerous, the things that she is saying, the amount of people that are being hurt by the things that she's saying. And so therefore you can't allow it to go. Now, King David allowed himself to be insulted. There was a time when King David was being insulted and he said, do not say anything, don't touch him, don't do anything, because this is from heaven. He was allowed to take that rebuke. However, we have another story of King David. It's probably even more famous than this. It's Goliath. What was Goliath doing that made King David feel that he had to go down at 13 years old to go up against Goliath? It was the fact that he was cursing his God. That the things that he was doing was what we would call in Hebrew a chilul Hashem. He was desecrating the name of God. And because of that, King David had to go down and he had to stand up and defend. It wasn't for his own honor, but it was for God. And I believe that when you're seeing a lot of these young creators, and it's common sense versus non-common sense, and you're fighting a war, we're all fighting a war right now against a Goliath. Numbers mean nothing. All you people keep saying, oh, wow, she's number one or whatever. Numbers mean absolutely nothing. The overwhelming majority of people, unfortunately, will not be dancing in the last dance. That is biblically stated by the prophets. So whenever you see a lot of large numbers, Jeroboam was able to convince a lot of people not to go down to the temple. Doesn't matter. It wasn't about the numbers, because God says, even if I only have 7,000, even if I only have a remnant of 7,000, that's enough. Gideon took out armies of 100,000 with 300 people. It is what it is. God doesn't lose.
Who's extremely close to this current administration, and they said completely offhandedly, we were not even really discussing Charlie, but then they said, something that's really weird. I was at Charlie's memorial. She said, when did Turning Point become so faith focused? She's like, I remember obviously Charlie always spoke about his evangelical faith. She's like, but when you guys were running around starting all these Turning Point chapters, it was all about free markets and capitalism. And she was like,
now I want you to think about this. When did TPUSA become more faith focused? Now, Candace, it was probably not like that when you were around, because you were not a faith person, right? In fact, you yourself have incriminated yourself to this, that you have been a horrible friend to Charlie. When he was running around with you, you were trying to get him to listen to Nicki Minaj and Kanye West and degenerate music. That's what you were doing as a friend. So it could be that when you were around, there was less faith. Maybe he wasn't as strong as he was, as opposed to when somebody like you were out of his life, when you were not in his everyday life, right? And would it have not been that over time that he could have grown stronger in his faith and wanted to share that with the rest of the world?
And I was at the rally and it was suddenly faith, 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 pastor, 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 pastor. And I said, that is actually interesting. That is true, that it just kind of started. And then it was almost the biggest thing about Turning Point. It's really interesting to consider that. Turning Point suddenly got super de-duper faithful with what I would say is an interesting cast of characters, the wrong characters. Okay. Rob McCoy leading that frontier, as we know. What people don't know publicly is that Lance Wallnau was working with him. Okay. He was intimately involved, and more importantly, he was financially involved. Sources within Turning Point's faith department tell me that Lance was running the show behind the scenes through funding.
Now, sources tell me, people, again, remember who we're dealing with here. There's never a concrete person. There's never a concrete document. It's always sources, sources, sources. And then by the time she actually does present receipts, which we're going to get into today, do not change this video. Trust me, you are going to want to see what I do at the end. And in terms of receipts, you are going to want to see this. Now, when she does it, it's always some ambiguous text message, something that doesn't mean anything. It has absolutely no value to anything that she's saying. But there's always sources, right? Sources tell me. And when it comes to funding, it's not always, and this is something that has to be said, it is not always about the funding influencing the person, right? There are people who are, influencers who are involved, or organizations that want to go in a particular direction. So they start sending people on their team to look for a particular type of funding because they want to expand in those areas, right? So as I said, now maybe Charlie grew even more stronger in his faith over the years. And as an evangelical Christian, which he was, right, he probably wanted to evangelize. So he probably set it up in a way where they would go after more funders that were on board with him, evangelizing. So therefore, these TPUSA events became much more Christian, much more faith focused, because maybe that's where Charlie was in his life, and he was able to finally get the financial backing to go in that direction, right? As opposed to where he was getting funding probably before from people who were more interested in the political side of what TPUSA was doing. It doesn't always have to be, right, that the money itself is influencing the direction. That's what a lot of people get mistaken. I'm going to let her finish talking. I don't know why, but I am.
He put a ton of money into Turning Point USA faith operations. Now, I guess a better way for me to state this, because I want to be super clear here, is that Lance Wallnau, who is from a military family and who is saying that he believes in infiltration as a means to climb mountains and overtake society, however he just described
I can't. I'm sorry. I'm done with her already. But this is what I'm saying. You cannot conspiracize everything that happens. It just can't be. At some point, whether it's Candace, whether it's this one or point, whatever, you have to grow up, and you have to be able to look at things for what they are, and to be able to judge things for what they actually are, not for the things that you are trying to make it. There just has to be some give with all of this. You're talking episode after episode. Nothing about Macron. And that's the thing. People following her, not even noticing how much the content is shifted from one thing to the next thing. Let's roll the next clip.
I'd like to add to that by saying that on the day that Charlie was shot, for whatever reason, Kash Patel injects himself into it, the feds seized all of the footage at the hospital that Charlie was brought to at Timpanogos. That doesn't make sense to me. Nothing makes sense to me in this whole story. So this is just kind of the icing on, on the top here. Not even the icing on the top. But why would they move to seize that footage? How is that going to help their investigation? What's happening inside of Timpanogos? How is that going to help their investigation, their immediate boots on the ground investigation into who shot Charlie Kirk?
The other question is, just as unimportant as it is to the investigation, how important is it that you actually see the footage of him going to the hospital? Like, I'm trying to figure out a world in which people who are actually following and watching Candace and listening to this rhetoric actually believe that everybody there, from Michael McCoy to whoever it was that was there, who was grabbing footage and everything, they were supposed to collect all of that and send it to Candace. I just want to throw that out there. That's what she's been insinuating. It should be out there, at least for the public to see. Candace and her audience. People aren't getting back to her. People are not sending her this. How important, just as unimportant as she feels that this would be towards the investigation, wouldn't it be just as equally unimportant for it to be shared on the internet or sent to Candace's email? I'm just saying.
They're on a manhunt. Why are they going, okay, let's at first grab the footage at Timpanogos? Does that make sense? Were you worried? Did a nurse call 911 and say, oh, a guy just ran in here with a gun and you need to seize the footage because that's going to help you track him down? If that didn't happen, why are you seizing that footage? I don't know. With everything that is going on, and I would say almost the lack of information that we have at Timpanogos, not a single person who captured them pulling up, nothing, despite the fact that there were news cameras outside waiting, oddly, from like a New York news channel.
Charlie was that big. Candace, Charlie was that big. It had what to do with America, TPUSA. So the fact that the news truck was from New York, I'm talking about, guys, she's reaching. She's reaching. She is reaching. I'm so sorry. I'm not going to continue with that. I just can't. Listen, I'm sorry to stop the show for a second. I just want to let you know that today's episode is brought to you by Market Ding. Look, in today's world, if people can't find you online, then you don't exist. That's where Market Ding comes in. They're a digital marketing and SEO company. They used to dominate healthcare, but now they dominate just about everything. Whether you're running a business or a brand or even a podcast like mine, Market Ding knows how to get you found fast. So don't just show up online, grow online. So visit marketding.com today and watch your growth online explode. Okay, back to the show. We have to, as a collective, we have to do better. We have to be very careful who we allow to entertain us, right? This whole entire series of whatever she has going on has been a complete farce. There is nothing about this that makes anything in me go, oh, wow. Oh, wow. It's just, and even if it is, you just think about it for 2 more seconds. 2 more seconds, and the whole entire thing just goes off. That's exactly what it is. And I want to give a big shout out really to CNN, because CNN, was brave enough, and I'm not a CNN fan. I haven't been a CNN fan for many years. However, but CNN, this clip has been floating around, but I want to show this because I have an interesting perspective, and you're going to want to see the receipts behind this and see how Candace responded, because she knows that this was an embarrassment for her. This interview was horrible for her. It was horrible for her brand. Check it out.
You say you believe that Charlie Kirk was betrayed by someone close to him. What do you mean?
I think that in the coming weeks, there's going to be a lot of financial reports that are coming out. And I, first and foremost, do not believe that Tyler Robinson killed Charlie Kirk. I want to be very clear on that. Whether he was involved, I think the answer is yes. I think that's obvious. And
your basis for saying he didn't act alone is what?
I don't know, maybe the weird Fed messages that were concocted out of thin air that had no timestamp and were written like they were speaking in 1822, among other things.
The Fed messages, by the way, the Fed messages, because she's already coined them as Fed messages. That's what they are considered. That nobody else has called them the Fed messages except for Candace. But she says indefinitely they were already done by the Fed. She already knows who did them. And listen how she answers.
Their lack of an ability to answer any basic questions about what took place.
But do you have any proof that the messages were made up? Because that would be easily proven.
Yeah, but they didn't put timestamps on them, and Discord came out and said they didn't exist.
This was supposedly text messages, not Discord messages. It's my understanding from the indictment.
I actually did not read that they were text messages.
The indictment calls them text messages.
What would it be like the feds are like on a computer, typing it out back and forth?
That's exactly what it is. The feds made up the text messages.
But you don't have anyone from like the FBI telling you that, or law enforcement?
I have leaks.
Okay.
I have leaks. I don't know, but I know. But I know. We know, but we don't know. But I know.
Yeah.
Has anyone leaked to you?
And Tyler Robinson
But has anyone said to you, even off the record, like, yeah, we faked these?
I have very strong sources everywhere on both sides.
Well, I look forward to seeing the evidence of that.
Sure. Because when we keep talking about evidence, it's like, who's going to present that evidence? Like the mainstream media? Like who are you expecting to come
Yes, that would be a hot
out?
story.
No, it wouldn't be.
It would be.
It wouldn't be.
If the FBI, like if I had a source telling me, like if I had proof that the FBI faked those messages, that would be an enormous story.
Yeah, I kind of feel like we live in a post-Epstein world and we know how stories get shut down. And
That is what it is. That is what it is. But you should see the follow-up from Candace Owens. Because she knew that this interview was absolutely embarrassing to her and to her brand, she immediately goes on Twitter or on X and she fires back. And this is what she says. Candace releases a tweet saying that it's so easy to debunk. She's saying that basically CNN lied about speaking about Charlie. They said that it wasn't going to come up and whatever. And my CNN interview was booked before Charlie died, and it was related to my book launch. We kept the interview, which took place about 20 days after he passed. And then we told them in writing multiple times that I wanted no questions about Charlie, despite this CNN was CNN and violated our request and asked about him once the cameras were rolling. So number two, you awarded an interview to WSJ about Charlie's death 4 days after he was gone and chose to pose outside of his public memorial site in high boots. We are not the same. And number three, Davidic was Charlie's word, not mine. Okay, so this is the message now that Candace showed. She gave a screenshot, as she loves to give screenshots. And you're going to see how much this one is about nothing either. Hey, Ellie, this is coming obviously from her manager, from her team. And the main part is to look at where it says most importantly. So most importantly, it says Candace wants to refrain from discussing the passing of her friend Charlie Kirk at this time. If this changes, I will let you know. Additionally, given the events of last week, please let us know the following, security details or whatever. But this is where it happens, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you're still with me. Right here is the email that happened. If you look at the date, that was on the 26th of September, and that they're talking about this happening. So that's the 20 days after. And then this message was on the 22nd of September, which was after that message that Candace, and they actually asked if it was okay for them to mention Charlie Kirk. So the manager responds, "Thank you. So long as Charlie is discussed in a tasteful way, that's fine. I understand you have to ask. I would just keep it to 1 or 2 questions about his passing. She's still mourning, so it's a sensitive topic." Boom. Candace, ladies and gentlemen, proven to be as fake as we thought she was. Boom, I got you. And this is what I'm talking about, ladies and gentlemen. It shows in the character. It shows in the character of these individuals. Do not follow them. Do not listen to them. Flee from them. Flee from these people. It's a destructive thing. And this is, and I'm going to say somebody, because I'm not going to try to pit this person against it, whatever the case is. If you know, you know, but we know. Said something very, very true. That this all starts with her disrespect of Israel, disrespect of God's people. Forget about the government. She has gone on record saying that Jews worship demons, and because we keep, to the Talmud, it's demonic. And she says that, evangelicals who are Protestant Christians also are worship demonic forces. This is a lady here, right, who has basically pitted herself against other faith communities. And specifically when it comes to Israel, when she's talking about the Jewish people, I will let you know right now, God will not take lightly of that. we are watching the beginning of the fall of Candace Owens. And to be honest, maybe we don't have to do all these videos. All we have to do maybe is to let her keep talking. Maybe just let her keep talking. Because eventually, I think people will see her for what she is. Thank you guys so much for joining. Remember to serve God, but to live trying. I'm out. Thank you so much for watching. Please, again, make sure you like, subscribe, notification bell, and if you can, make sure that you pick up some merch. Nissim Black .store. Make sure you get yourself a cup, t-shirt, something, help and support this channel. Also, you can sign up for Glory Nation, which is my online community where we go deep into prayer and how to protect ourselves from being idiots. See you guys in the next video.